On today's show, the villainous, unsettling, classless San Diego Padres take Game 3 from the Los Angeles dastardly Dodgers, thanks to Manny Machado having some incredible baseball IQ, Fernando Tatis Jr. continuing his supernova stretch, the bullpen looking good, and, well, a whole lot more than that. Lots to dive into because it's playoff madness and, man, feels good. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Wednesday, October 9th. As always, I am your host with sometimes, occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter at Javiipeno, Javapeno, the best handle in the game, I say so humbly. And you can also check out at LO_Padres if you want to follow just updates for the show, although I mostly have been, especially lately, just tweeting all Padres stuff, a lot of memes, a lot of crazy stuff, memes and dreams over there, so go check that out, as well as Baseball versus the World, my other general baseball podcast, which is part of the Just Baseball Network, which I also write for. I'm actually doing some newsletter stuff over there, so subscribe to the newsletter for my baseball writing, which I will be picking up more as this week comes to an end and whatnot, because it's been a crazy last few days, obviously. Crazy last few weeks, frankly, but especially last few days. Today's episode, guys, is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals, like in LA. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. In today's episode, guys, we've got a game to recap because, wow, I mean, yesterday's episode, I basically used yesterday's episode, especially because we didn't really have a game to talk about, just ranting, frankly. And I use that also because it's not like I have like a lot of baseball analysis to do at this point. Like, we kind of know what the series is until otherwise, right? Like, we kind of have that and we kind of know what everything is. It's not like I have necessarily too much strategy or ideas or predictions or, oh, wait, the Padres just signed this guy. So that's kind of why I did that too. And it's crazy because after the last 72 hours, right, with the Padres and all the discourse, especially that was exacerbated because of the Dave Roberts incident and the unsettling, that's why I said that in the intro, the Manny Machado ball toss, and then the Ken Rosenthal article that really set it off even further. This was a highly anticipated game, and it did live up to the potential, at least in the beginning. This game absolutely goes bonkers at the very beginning, and I was just sitting back feeling like, if you guys know in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, when Sarah Connor is up against the fence and then she sees the nuclear blast or whatever, that's kind of what it was like watching this game at the beginning. And we got to talk about it because, look, frankly, heading into this game, as someone who is a sports media person, I don't want to say reporter, journalist, whatever, person is what I go by. It was interesting following yesterday the very intense, really fervent media bias in favor of LA. You saw it on the Fox broadcast where Derek Jeter, David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez, they're kind of alluded to, yeah, the Padres, they like to be villains. They like to, annoy you and all that stuff, and they poke you and make you they love being the villain. And I was like, nah, y'all are making us the villain. Every other I'm just like, no one is talking about Jack Flaherty hitting Fernando Tatis Jr. or all the people throwing stuff at the players. It's just insane. But I will say that Around the Horn was the one place where they all were just dismissive, and they were like, yeah, this is completely contrived, what they're doing right now, the Dodgers, because they need something to be, to distract from the fact that they're, once again having playoff struggles and they need to motivate themselves. So shout out to Around the Horn. Great show still to this day. One of the few, some might say, in terms of the established place. But in terms of the game, guys, wow. Like I said, this game starts off absolutely ridiculous. First of all, Mookie Betts, and I don't know if I mentioned this on yesterday's show or the couple of shows before it, but Mookie Betts had been two of his last 45, 46, something around then, heading into this game. And people were talking a lot about how bad his postseason story has been for a while now, especially since he joined the Dodgers back in 2020. And again, if you look at his playoff career, this is a guy who has, like I said, been really, really, really below average, right? This is a guy who, now don't get me wrong, he's been in the playoffs a lot, and he's had a lot of success at points, but in his career, he has a 700 OPS, And almost that's entirely because the last few playoff series, this playoff series, the one in 2023, 2022, and a little bit in 2021, but mostly just these last 3 years, he's been pretty dreadful in the postseason. And it's really brought down a lot of his numbers on average. And he's not that bad of a player. And I don't remember if I brought up heading into this game, and if I didn't, my apologies, but I remember I was telling some people, like, Betts scares me. And the reason he scares me is because he's too good of a player. There's a difference between saying I'm not scared, or other teams especially are not scared of the Dodgers because of their playoff history, not just recently, but even before 2020, right? I know that Jeff Snyder was on our podcast, Lockdown Padres, and he took up so much time. But no, that really is what the Dodgers are known for. But I just thought Mookie Betts is too good of a player. This isn't Gleyber Torres of the Yankees. This isn't like an average suboptimal player, like I can't think, Michael Franco or whatever. That was just one that came to mind. My apologies. Like, this is like a top 5 player in the sport in a lot of ways. So to see him be like 2 of his last 45, I was scared because I am a believer in the law of averages. And I was just expecting him to do something. And he does, to start off this inning, this game in the top of the first inning, hitting an absolute shot that I will say Jurickson Profar is the second batter of the game. Jurickson Profar makes a leap down by the supply company line, down by left field line, and the ball bounces off like the very side of his glove. He almost robbed him again, to the point where on the broadcast, once again, Mookie Betts, he was like kind of like jogging back to the dugout because he thought it happened again. And I almost thought it happened again for a second too, but no, you could tell. And I just want to give a shout out also to the Petco fans that were there that just totally got out of the way, trying to almost like, come on, you can get it, man. So shouts to those fans. I just thought that was lovely to see that sort of happen. And that's not a shot at the Dodgers fans, by the way. It's their ballpark. They're allowed to, they're in the seats. That's fine. But everyone got out of the way. Profar just off the edge of his glove, almost had it. If he robbed him again, boys and gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what I would have done. You know what I mean? If he did that. But it's a solo shot for Mookie Betts. And that kind of starts off the absolute circus that is the beginning of this game. And again, I was nervous about it. Yes, I understand Michael King did get Shohei Ohtani to strike out swinging, but he was pretty bad after that. Before we get into that, though, let me tell you, Padres offense goes nuts. Xander Bogaerts first reaches on a fielder's choice. I mean, it was nuts. Just to read the play-by-play. Bottom of the first inning, the Padres don't do anything. Arias flies out. Tatis flies out. Profar pops up, right? So that wasn't great. But then Manny Machado, after everything that's been happening, hits a single. We love that. Then Jackson Merrill reaches on fielder's choice because of a little bit of an incident in which the Padres, Miguel Rojas, Freddie Freeman, who I want to give a lot of credit to Freddie Freeman. This guy's playing on a bum ankle, probably only one ankle at this point, and, gets to the ground. He has to throw the ball, and Manny Machado, and I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised that the umpires didn't come to talk about this. And I'm not fully 100% fluent. They were talking about this on Fox, the Fox Sports broadcast after the game, that like it's a little bit of a 50-50 whether they're going to call it like a runner's interference or anything like that. But Manny basically baited it. He initiated the situation. The umpires didn't call it, but he kind of like runs a little bit to the left. That way Freeman, he has to mess up, and then he ends up bouncing the ball off of him, and it goes into left field basically. And then Machado is able to get to third, and then that's where the rest of the fun begins. We'll talk about the rest of that fun, including Fernando Tatis Jr., who is just so great. And man, it is unbelievable all those years, speaking of media bias, when they were trying to contrive this idea that they were going to trade this man. And you see in this game that they absolutely shouldn't have done that, and they made the right decision because Fernando Tatis Jr. is a freak of nature. But before we talk about that and continue my recap of the game, guys, I got to talk to you about one of our sponsors. In fact, two, and one of them being FanDuel. You guys know FanDuel very, very well by now. They are America's #1 sports book. You can bet on the latest stats within the app. When you're checking out the play-by-play, you can see much more on that page, where you place your bets and whatnot. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. And the next one is Prize Picks. We love Prize Picks very much on this show, guys. And that's because they have more than 10 million members, folks. It is the best daily fantasy sports app you will find. All you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Got to run your game, man. all season long on Prize Picks. It's really fantastic. They got all sorts of sports things going on across football, baseball, WNBA, NHL just got started up as well. So look forward into that. And what I love is they also give you a bunch of deals constantly. For example, right now, you can just sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. You get $50 guaranteed. So that's a nice bonus to start you off. And they also offer weekly promotions. If you missed it yesterday, don't worry. Look forward to it next week. They do a big payout for Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select players' projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineup. So it's really great. You just got to pick over or under. Just simple as that, guys. So go check it out. Maybe you want to pet more than 83 and a half yards on Justin Jefferson next week. You can check that out if you're a football person. Whatever you want, man. Go check that out, guys. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get that $50 instantly bonus beast token lovely thing. Wrong adjectives there, but you guys get my point. After you play your first $5 lineup, Prize Picks, run your game. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing into segment number 2 of this show. We're talking about the offense getting started. Manny Machado with a really big heads-up play, getting things started. It's just amazing that after all of the whirlwind of controversy, and in my opinion, just really shameful and incredibly biased and gross coverage, especially from Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, and including some other people too. It wasn't just him. It was some other people, some Dodgers beat writers and whatnot. We'll save them for the offseason if the Padres win this series especially, and we'll be digging into that another time. But great heads-up play by him. And by the way, if they had called him out, if there's some interference, that would have been fair too. Like, I'm not fully familiar with this situation, but hey, I remember when Chase Utley was on the Dodgers and he was doing something that was incredibly dirty, which was sliding out of the base paths to take someone's legs out. So just saying. But anyway, after that, Xander Bogaerts, thankfully, he does hit a little bit of a grounder, and it was a little bit of a soft grounder. But thankfully, one good thing about Xander Bogaerts is while he has been hitting the ball a lot weaker, and he has been, again, I'm more worried about him for the future of the Padres, right? I still think he could come up with some big hits, and he does here. Infield hit for him, allowing Manny Machado to score from third base, especially because of all the chaos and given his speed, right? Really great moment for Xander Bogaerts. And then David Peralta rips a double, allowing Xander Bogaerts and Jackson Merrill scored. Then Jake Cronenworth getting in on the action, his first hit of the postseason. He hits a single. Then Kyle Higashioka hits a sac fly, allowing David Peralta to score from third, which was lovely. And then one Sir Fernando Tatis Jr. hits an absolute blast into left field after an 0-2 count. Buehler, who, for the record, I don't think Walker Buehler was actually all that bad in this game. And one of the things that we talked about was Walker Buehler really just wasn't the same when he got back from injury this year. He's actually going to be a really fascinating free agent test case this year or this offseason, I should say, because he came back this year and just it never worked. He never fully recovered from his Tommy John surgery. But this guy, when he's healthy and when he was healthy, I think was like a Cy Young type of pitcher. Like, I really do. He's really, really good. But he didn't come back all that well, and then they lost Glass now too. So that's why everyone was talking about the Dodgers, they're starting pitching. And he throws 2 pitches inside, up and inside, and the first one, good pitch. Tatis isn't able to make contact, but they go there again, and he was just ready, and he stared at that bad boy for a minute, looks at the crowd, does his dugout celebration. Absolutely lovely. There are very few players better and more exciting and just, more capable of seizing the moment than Fernando Tatis Jr. And actually, after that hit that he had last night, he actually ended up, for now granted it's a small sample size, right? But Fernando Tatis Jr., after that hit, 2,200 OPS in the playoffs this year. That is the highest in a single postseason in MLB history with a minimum of 50 plate appearances. Now, of course, that's just for now, right? He'll probably play in more playoff games for the future unless he pulls a Mike Trout, right? And then the Padres are just useless for the rest of all time. But all in all, just an incredible moment for him. And he's just been unbelievable. He really has been. It's him. It's Ohtani. I think Bryce Harper is up there for guys that are just super exciting, must-watch TV personalities. Shohei, not necessarily like the most loud, boisterous personality, but he's just such a freak superhero that it's kind of hard to not, follow him and just watch his moments. And hey, his home run in game 1 was really hype, right? And then maybe there's another player or two. I think that like the Mets in general have been a little bit wild, right? They've been amazing to watch with the Pete Alonso stuff. But yeah, it's Tatis. It really is. And I said before this year, many people have said I really do think that in a lot of ways, the two like it players in the current realm of baseball, you could argue it's Tatis and Shohei in terms of just most like exciting players to watch. I know you've got Judge, but let's be honest, Judge can be a little bit more of a humble pie guy, right? When it comes down to things, and that's not necessarily a problem, but it's true. So I really do think that these guys are just it's amazing what they do. Shout out to Fernando Tatis Jr. But of course, I say this if you're watching on YouTube, I put this Buehler versus King, the battle of mid, because after this, Walker Buehler kind of settles down. And by the way, remember, some of these hits were because of the weird base running stuff, right? Some infield hits and then the sac fly and whatnot. He basically just gives up one bad hit, and that was to David Peralta. But then after this, he ends up going 5 innings, and he doesn't get a single strikeout, which is crazy. Like, that's when it's not that he was great, but he doesn't get a single strikeout. Maybe he might have been robbed from a couple, but it's okay. Michael King gives up these runs immediately back, and it was frustrating, and I tweeted that Michael King has the Dodgers money line, but really what was frustrating wasn't that necessarily that Michael King wasn't great. It's that he allows singles to Miguel. He allows a single to Miguel Rojas to start off the inning. And it's like, come on, that's like their 9-hitter. You shouldn't be doing that. Then Shohei gets a single. Then Betts gets a single. Freddie Freeman lines out. And then he lets up a donut on an 0-2 pitch upside. And it was a hanging slider. Teoscar Hernandez. Grand slam. Yes, he gets Max Shrunch to a strikeout and Will Smith to ground out. And I understand that was basically it for the rest of the game. But even still, that was a bad moment for Michael King, who ends up not having actually like an awful line. Right? 5 innings, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 3 Ks. That's not awful. Not awful. But especially for a guy who basically hasn't had a bad start in like freaking 5 months. But it's just really like after that momentum boost, for you to then make it that for the rest of the night we're going to be having a heart attack, that's where we're at. And that's what ended up happening, as no team ended up scoring any runs for the rest of the game. The Padres absolutely slice and dice them with their bullpen. And let me tell you guys, bullpen, like, I was wrong, man. I was wrong. What do you want from me? I was very critical. I wouldn't say I hated it. I think I gave it a B- or a B, their trade deadline, because I just think that giving up so many assets for relievers, I'm never about that. I mean, if you look at, let's look around the league, right? Emmanuel Clase, now he's not someone that the Guardians traded for, but he just gave up a 3-run nuke to Kerry Carpenter in the ALDS, and Emmanuel Clase is having like one of the best relief pitching seasons we've seen in like the last 15 years. And that's what happens, right? They're just really hard to trust them, and that's why I don't like giving up too much for them. You want to look at Edwin Diaz for the Mets. He has had a bad season. Granted, he had the messed up leg. I forgot what exactly happened to him after the World Baseball Classic, so he missed a year. He's coming back from injury, but they paid him a lot, and he's been really iffy at points this year. For the majority of the season, he blew a lot of saves for them. So I'm not always wild about that. But you really saw last night why the Padres did that, because not only did the Padres say, we think we're getting Musgrove back, we think we're getting Darvish back, and we like Perez, that's fine. And they decided, you know what? We're not going to win a postseason series if we're hoping that guys like Enyel De Los Santos and Wandy Peralta and Yuki Matsui are like our setup people in the 7th, 6th, 8th inning, right? Instead, the fact that you can go to a litany of different pitchers, including some rookies. So Jeremiah Estrada is one of them, and he looked absolutely aces in this 1 inning, 2 strikeouts in this one. Just looked dynamite. Then Jason Adam comes in, he gets a strikeout, and then Tanner Scott comes in for 2 outs. And then Robert Suarez, unlike one Sir Josh Hader, who can you guys remind me? He's not in the postseason anymore, right? Yeah, that's right. He's not in the postseason anymore. How about that? Wow. Huh. Amazing stuff. Would you look at that? That's interesting. Robert Suarez goes 1 1/3. They end up bringing him in order to get the Teoscar Hernandez out, which was huge. And they liked the matchup. They said, let's throw some pitches by this guy. Absolutely love to see it. Just really great stuff from them. So I was wrong. This bullpen is just so good. And the fact that you can go to it and it almost feels like you have another starter because of how good this bullpen is just amazing. 4 innings for the bullpen in totality. Only 1 hit allowed. No walks, 6 Ks. That's insanity, ladies and gentlemen. That's insanity. Like, that is, again, just totally making me shut my mouth and saying, why did you complain about the trade deadline? My God. Absolutely my God, guys. Like, just, it was amazing. It was amazing. We're going to talk more about it in just a minute, guys. But first, I need to talk to you about our sponsor. You heard them at the top of the podcast. They're a little bit relevant to right now. That is booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals, those dastardly Dodgers and the City of Angels in LA. Well, you can go check that out. Because they got you with bed and breakfast, hotel and vacation rentals. They've got all sorts of different things. Bed and breakfasts, different resorts to go to, family-friendly resorts too, depending on what your party is and whatnot have you. And no matter who you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any city. Hotels that look over the stadiums, they've got you set up with all the right packages and whatnot. So go check out Booking.com. They can make you a fan of any city, including your baseball rival in LA. Or if you want to go San Francisco, if you want to go Arizona, if you want to go Colorado, whoever it is, they've got you covered. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing into the final segment of this here podcast, a very uppity show. And what can I say that hasn't been said already? Padres bullpen absolutely shutting down the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I think that it's really important to talk about one in particular, and that's Tanner Scott. Because Tanner Scott, they gave up a lot. Now, granted, they gave up a lot because they also got Brian Hoeing, who was like not better than Tanner Scott. I don't want to say that, but he's low-key been like one of the better trade deadline acquisitions, and it's kind of amazing that they got him because he's also under contract for another year, which is really great. Now, don't get me wrong, pitchers, it's not a guarantee that they'll be better from year to year, and you could argue that there are some things with Brian Hoeing, right? He's got a little bit of a higher expected ERA, 4.93, at least in terms of the regular season, but his FIP and everything is still good, so still solid pitcher, but he's been really, really great for the Padres. So excited about that, but I will say that they did give up a lot, but Shohei Ohtani against Tanner Scott, he's 1 for 12 with 6 Ks. That's why you pay sometimes for a relief pitcher. That's why you go up and in for him, because there were times in this game he got Shohei to strike out. Now, one of them, it was a looking strikeout, but even still, and by the way, it looked like it was a strike. Outside corner, perfect location. Tanner Scott has been a baller for this team. Basically, every relief pitcher. Now, I am a little bit worried about who exactly is going to be available. It is the postseason. And I do worry about your Motorhones, right? I do worry about your Yuki Matsuis. I do worry a tiny bit about Brian Hoeing, despite the fact that he's been very good for this team. So that it remains to be seen how that's going to go. But even still, it's hard to complain about this, right? He drew 5 swings and misses also against Ohtani. It's very, very hard to complain. I just think that this Padres team, man, they have the magic. They absolutely do, and they deserve all the credit in the world. I was nervous the entire time. I imagine you guys were too. Shouts to Robert Suarez. That was amazing to see him go 4 outs. Again, shouts to Josh Hader, who infamously would not do such a thing. Padres go out and get the W. And man, it feels good, man. It feels really, really good. Despite all the dumb narratives that we've talked about that have transpired over the last 48 hours, especially some that have a little bit of an edge that don't sit right with me, frankly. It was weird seeing Rosenthal on the broadcast interviewing players. The mid-interview or the mid-game interview is always just weird to me. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it from the players where it's I don't know. In any sport, really. I don't know. It's just always weird to me. But anyway, really, really crazy stuff. But even crazier is, guys, we've got one more game. Or hopefully one more game. My bad. I don't mean to jinx it or anything. But it was announced. I read this from Kevin AC. It's been reported by AJ Catsfall, everybody else. Dylan Cease is going to start game 4 for the Padres. That tells me that they're we need to win this now, right? We don't want to go back to LA. And hopefully they can win. It's not that they can't win in LA, but that's what they're thinking. Whew, this is tough. With a home crowd, I think that what they're hoping is that you get the good Dylan Cease, because obviously he was not that. What was it on Saturday? In which the Padres lost. Last start, 3 1/3. He gave up 5 earned runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks. Made the bad pitch to Ohtani. Obviously, that was the big one. I do think that this is one of those things where he could have a short leash, and I do think that Martin Perez could be someone that we see in this game. I could even see a situation in which Dylan Cease does great for like 3 2/3 or maybe 4 innings, right? I could see that, and then I could see them like doing a piggyback start is what I call it, right? Where it's kind of like you're basically using 2 starting pitchers or a long inning reliever, and that counts as like 1 full start, basically. I could see that occurring. I could also just seeing them say, you know what, our bullpen is awesome, and we're just going to trust those guys again to try and shut down these hitters, especially the guys like Ohtani, right? And especially, hopefully, Mookie Betts, he did have 2 hits in this game, and we're worried about him, Teoscar Hernandez. But the rest of that Dodgers lineup isn't as intimidating, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they deploy their bullpen. Who do you use against which batters? Because for me, this is going to be the Dylan Cease for Shohei Ohtani thing is going to be really nerve-wracking, right? Like he gave up the same home run to him that he gave up to him when he was in Chicago that was trending all over baseball on ESPN and everything, right? So we're going to see how that goes. They need Dylan Cease to step up. I like the call, and I like that they're basically saying, you know what, we got to go with this now. It's going to be something, man. It's going to be something. And I will say, just to, again, I'm sorry that I'm like complaining again and doing on this, but 2 things. First of all, Fernando Tatis Jr., his Instagram story, at least by the time right after the game, he had a, like, one of, you know, those, like, it's not like an emoji, but it's like those, well, some are emojis, and then there's like the, on Instagram stories, you can add the little like stickers or whatever. He put on his story or with the Padres post a peacock and then a dancing guy separately. So yeah, safe to say that he read the Ken Rosenthal article and he was like, what the heck is that? Or at least someone told him about it, whatever. Tatis, man. My guy just is not above it. He is absolutely not taking no high road with any of this stuff. And he lives for stuff like this. So we love that. And then also, again, not to be like this complaining gossiper too much, but like for a team that the media's, or at least a lot of the media, not everybody, right? Like to be very clear, I brought up around the horn, is trying to act like the Dodgers are the underdog and that the Padres are a villain, which is crazy. Guys, I don't care if they got some, you can't call the team that has won the NL West like 12 years in a row the underdog, who also spent $1 billion plus in the offseason. I know that a lot of that went to Ohtani, but even still, you also gave money to Glass now, you gave money to Teoscar Hernandez and whatnot. That team is the underdog now, and the team that, by the way, lost its owner. And by the way, its owner, by some reports, was trying to lead an initiative to like oust or prevent John Fisher and the A's from doing what they've done, right? And unfortunately, that lost momentum after Peter Seidler's passing. It's like, it's amazing, right? Like you can really see stuff like this. The excitement of Tatis, the type of player that kids watch and they're like, I want to be like that dude, right? Like they love watching players like that, you know? And a team that has the Peter Seidler stuff, a team that historically was a nothing. The Padres were a nothing burger. An absolute nothing burger. Did they have some fun years? Of course they did. Did they have some great Hall of Famers? Of course they do, right? They even had some players who just played for them for a little bit that were Hall of Famers, like Ricky Henderson, right? Like, but in majority, they've been pretty irrelevant, and they changed the script. You know, the Seidlers came in, AJ Preller came in, who was at the game and it was very funny seeing him. It's always funny seeing AJ Preller. I don't know if I mentioned to my listeners and viewers that I went to a Mets game last year, and I swear I ran into him, but it was so jarring that he would be like at the front gate where like us commoners go, you know what I'm saying? And he was like on the phone talking, like walking fast. I didn't get a second. If that happened again, or if AJ Preller for some reason knows about this show, hi, I was at the Mets game, so shouts to you, sir. You looked great. He was probably locked in, ready to make some move, right? But all in all, that's where we are. And I can't wait. I can't wait for tonight's game. It's going to be nuts. And I can't wait for the rest of the baseball games in general. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Mets and Phillies goes down. It's going to be really interesting with Tigers, Guardians, and Yankees, Royals with Jazz Chisholm. Basically the Yankees kind of version of Tatis a little bit, where he's saying, oh, they got lucky and all that stuff. The Royals. So playoff baseball has been absolutely sensational to watch so far. And I am really, really excited. But I will tell you, Dylan Cease, that is a choice. That is a choice. They need, because and the thing about Dylan Cease is, it would not shock me if he's as bad as he was in the last start. It would certainly not shock me if he goes 4 innings, 2 hits, and 6 Ks. Like, that would not shock me either, because he is capable of that. The problem is, unlike Musgrove and, well, before last night, unlike King, it feels like he's a little bit more of a coin flip. You don't know which version of him you're going to get. But I will say, you would have assumed that Michael King would have been a huge advantage, and he got blown up, right? This is just how the playoffs can be sometimes, where guys like Martin Perez, and again, we talked about this before the postseason. I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but, Jordan Montgomery was like the big star of the playoffs last year. Fine pitcher, but he's not Scherzer. He's not Verlander, like these Hall of Fame caliber pitchers. And yet he was kind of the story of the playoffs last year, right? So pitching can sometimes, it's not that like really bad pitchers show up, but like those middling ones, they can have decent postseason runs. It happens. And while, yes, Martin Perez, if he does make an appearance in tonight's game, he does scare me with the fact that his FIP is way, way, way too high with the Padres, and it suggests he's been getting a little bit lucky. I do like that his strikeout rate has gone up. So if you can just get us through some innings, if Cease, does some of the role, we'll see, man. Gotta root for it, man. I can't wait. Just one more game. And if the Padres win this one, folks, you are going to see me in a absolute demon, sage, rambling, barbaric state on tomorrow's podcast if the Padres win this game. So, if you needed any more reason for the Padres to win, to root for them, that's another reason for you. So, can't wait for that. Feel free, guys, to send me more questions in the meantime we may talk about as the rest of the week kind of transpires and whatnot. At Javipeno, JAVIIPENO, or at LO_Padres. Be sure to reach out there. Send some YouTube comments as well. And yeah, that's it. Until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful, my very faithful homies. Take care. Yeah.